Hello, Otafest podcast listeners. Welcome back to this episode, number 202 of our lovely anime convention podcast. With me are Nancy and Angelo.
Hello.
To speak about the anime.
We're here to talk about anime.
The fall review of anime.
There were quite a few shows that came out, but as usual, we will take the ones that are not sequel shows, usually new IP, or at least not season 2s and 3s of any particular show, and we do the one episode anime review. We cheated this time, though.
Did we?
Yeah, we watched
cheated.
2 episodes of one of them.
Well, that's because those were halfies.
They were shorts.
True.
It's true. It's true.
Those ones were halfies. I think that one is justified.
We were caught off guard because we were like, that was really fast. Either I super enjoyed it, or it was just really short.
No,
Turns out it was really short.
Yeah, for that one, it was because those were like little short 11-minute episodes. So to be fair, we didn't cheat. We evened the playing field because all the other ones had 20-minute episodes.
It's true.
Yeah, it's clearly evening the field for the amount of content.
Yes.
But just on a quick recap of the shows that we previewed initially at the beginning of fall, we had Chainsaw Man, we had Gundam
Witch of Mercury.
Yeah, Witch of Mercury. We have Do It Yourself, which is like a kind of cutesy...
Cute girls doing cute things.
Exactly.
Yeah, do it yourself anime.
We have
Eternal
Eternal
Boys.
Boys, The Mature Idol Project.
Yeah.
Which caught me off guard. That was the one that was little shorts.
We watched 2 episodes of that one. Yeah.
Which was our horror pick. I don't know if we usually pick horror animes to review, but this one did get picked this time.
Well, I think part of the reason was just because it was around Halloween.
Oh, yeah. No, that's true.
I would have been through fall.
And then we have
the last
Kokyu
one was,
no Karasu.
The Raven Consort.
All interesting in their own right. Some more enjoyable than others. Let's find out which ones are the ones we liked and what we thought of each. Starting with Chainsaw Man.
Once upon a time, there was a young man named Chainsaw Man. Then his dad got dead, and the Yakuza got pissed off, so they gave him dad's debt. Then Chainsaw Man found a dog. Then Chainsaw Man got killed and said, I will become Chainsaw Man. And then he became Chainsaw Man. And then he fucked around for a minute. And then he got a union job, and then everybody died, especially Pochita, the end.
Well, I think I speak for everyone when even if you didn't watch Chainsaw Man, you saw lots of Chainsaw Man-esque related things just like floating around on the internet.
You've
like,
seen the memes.
I hadn't watched
popular.
this, but I definitely saw the characters pop up in fan art, for example, and there were like no spoilers in that. And I definitely saw Chainsaw Man mentioned a lot. And I can say after the first episode that I do want to keep watching because damn, that animation.
I've been keeping up with it every week, and good lord, it's just so special. I really love it. A lot of people have had a lot of things to say about it, like ranging from, oh, it's not as good as the manga, to, oh, there's a lot of 3D CG in this. But overall, I'm really loving it. It is my anime of the season for me.
I have to say that when we got to the fall preview portion, I didn't like you were already kind of hyped up about it, Angelo. I recall, but I was kind of actually really tentative about it. Like I didn't really know what I was expecting. I hadn't read or heard anything about the manga, but watching that first episode, I will say that the things that stood out to me is I like the character design. I like the art style. I like the animation quality. The story is more wholesome than expected.
Don't worry, that changes sometimes.
The gore and like the
violence,
like the action, are like, I guess they're necessary. I mean, like they're it's Chainsaw Man. Okay, that's the title. If
the amount
if you didn't
of
get it,
blood.
it's not about Paul Bunyan, the anime, cutting down
Paul
wood.
Bunyan, the anime. My God,
Exactly.
Paul Bunyan as an
wanna-
anime girl is exceptionally cute, though.
But I will say
She
that
exists in Fate Grand Order.
I would probably keep watching. I don't see why not.
I definitely recommend watching it. If for whatever reason everything about it is off-putting to you, whatever, okay, you're allowed to not watch it. Everyone else, I feel like they should watch it.
I really, really appreciate all of the visuals that I was seeing. Like the cinematography. Angelo also mentioned that the opening sequence was all like a love letter to various cinematographies from like movies.
Yes.
Original mangaka is very into filmography, essentially.
Yes.
So
Film, I guess. But yeah, I just like the cinematography was really well planned. All of the scenes are just very, very cinematic.
They're
and I
kino.
really appreciate that.
They're
Just
so good.
based on things I really liked in the past.
And that's what, to me, feels the most different about Chainsaw Man from other anime. A lot of other anime, they try to adapt, like, manga panel to manga panel. And sometimes that works out really well, like in the case of the Vinland Saga anime. It was just really good. And sometimes it turns out really, really bad. Like Berserk 2016. I recognized the manga panels that they were adapting as they went through it. And that anime, if you can call it that, was barely animated at all. It literally felt like I was watching some really bad 3D CG version of the manga.
Yeah, there have been a few series like that where it just feels like you're watching a bunch of mildly animated stills.
Yeah. And luckily, Chainsaw Man, everything about that is different. It goes for very much a movie feel over a manga feel. And to mention about the 3D CG, sometimes you can tell. Sometimes it is a little bit jarring.
Yep.
But when that happens, it's because they have such an ambitious shot, such an ambitious piece of animation that actually does flow really well, that doing it in 3D was the only way to go about it. And it's not like Berserk 2016. It's not like X-Arm. There are legitimately a lot of parts that are 3D where I had to be like, wait a minute, was that 3D or was that 2D?
It actually flows quite well. One of the quick notes I wrote about it was because one of the things I enjoy watching every now and then is like B or even C level like Japanese horror movies where they're like live action. I could definitely see Chainsaw Man in that same genre if they ever decided to do a live action adaptation, or not an adaptation, but probably a movie. It would actually work pretty well if they had the CGI to go with it. The stylization is kind of right. The excessive amounts of gore is kind of just right. It has that feel. So if you know what I'm talking about,
So
and
Jay
you enjoy
wants
those types of movies,
a live action Chainsaw Man in the style and quality of Sweet Home.
Sure.
Okay.
I would say the only tiny gripe I have with it, and this is not can't be a spoiler at this point. I don't like the pull cord in the front. I think it should be where Pochita's pull cord is.
It should be
Out
on
of
his
all
ass.
the things you didn't like, it was the pull cord in the front.
The pull cord needs to
you gotta
be
put it
out of his
somewhere.
butt.
If it's gonna be somewhere where you can reach, it should probably be in the front and not in the back. Because could you imagine every time you needed to do a thing, you gotta like find someone to pull the cord on your back for you?
What really happens
can
is
reach. You can
Jay
reach.
wants Chainsaw Man to have some kind of Darling in the Franxx mech piloting sort of scenario. Where he
I don't
has
know
to
what that
bend
means.
over and someone has to pull his ripcord.
I legitimately do not know what that means, but okay.
Okay, so
Don't worry about it.
in
Don't worry
Darling in the
about it.
Franxx, a very old, and by that I mean like 4 or 5 years old, mecha
Here
anime
we
by
go.
Trigger.
Very old.
The mechs were piloted by 2 pilots, except the girl pilot would be on all 4s in front of the boy pilot, and she would have handlebars attached to her butt.
Why am I not surprised about this little revelation?
Jesus. Okay. Cool.
So, Jay, what you're
Anyways, I think
asking
this
for
is-
does exist in a different anime.
Okay. Good to know.
Just no.
Now that he knows it exists, he doesn't want it.
Just no. But
No, I meant more like a self-actuating thing.
Where he has to like stick out his butt and kind of like
No,
reach around
it's
for
because
the...
Pochita. It's because Pochita is an actual other chainsaws. You know, the pull cord is where it is. It's not here in the chest dealer.
anyway,
Anyways,
I know that the backstory for the character that's presented in that first episode is not super original, but it's still super relatable. And like a lot of times throughout that first episode, I was just like, wow, that hurts. The whole like paying off debt roughness, the want for just like a better life where you're not in debt. It just hurts a little bit because we're all in debt. Let's be honest.
All he wants is to flirt with the girl and get a girlfriend.
And fall asleep playing video games, hugging and stuff.
Except once that happens, once he flirts with the girl, he changes his goal. He wants to touch a boob.
oh,
That sounds like every teenager ever.
It's so good.
how
it's for
absolutely
real.
lewd.
How
It's for real.
unrealistic.
Denji's
Regardless.
motivations are perfect.
Regardless, my rating for this one is will watch more of. Yes, absolutely. Enthusiastically, yes, I will watch more.
Let's move on.
So the next thing we watched was Kido Senshi Gundam Suisen Majo, or Gundam, the Witch from Mercury. Yes, this is another installment of the Gundam franchise, and it has me thoroughly hooked. I love the art style of it.
The art style is wonderful. It reminds me of Trigger style animation, more circa like Promare, as opposed to something a little bit older like Kill la
Gundam
Kill.
styles.
Yeah. It's definitely an updated art style, an updated approach to the storytelling, because it's definitely the least, shall we say, like gritty in a sense, like to the when it starts. The initial setting is a school. It's not like immediate
It's not like
Earth
war
faction
orphans
versus
or colony drops.
versus space faction versus whatever. I'm sure all of that political storytelling still exists, but the initial setting is much more wholesome and almost, you could say, approachable in a sense. I enjoyed it a lot, actually. I think it might be the first Gundam series I've ever finished if
if you
I
keep
follow
going.
through.
Now,
Yeah.
pro tip, we actually watched episode 1 of this, and you would think that would be the beginning. There is an episode 0 of this.
Yes,
There is an
which I did
OVA.
watch.
Did I mess up?
That you can watch on YouTube completely free. Like, it's actually there. And that actually gives you a lot of ground information that happens about 10 or 15 years before
This
episode 1.
episode. Yeah. So I did watch that, and I think I liked that more than the first episode.
Yes.
The first episode is full of, I am an awkward, homeschooled, I've never been to school before girl. Also, I want to point out that all the characters that have something, anything to say, like all of the characters who have any kind of impact, they all have Yu-Gi-Oh hair.
They do. They have the most absurd ahoge. I was about
Or
to
like
say a different
weird
word.
spirally things that defy
Yes.
gravity,
G
or that's
Fuel
how hair
Jerk
works.
Turk has the most. He has the most
Jerky
anime
name
hair.
ever. He
And
also
the
has the jerkiest name.
Yes.
It even
G-Fuel
spells jerk if you
Turk.
try. Anyway.
But
And they all have daddy issues or parent issues.
they
all
absolutely
these
do.
Kids.
You
Isn't
have
that
no
a
idea for
mainstay
some
lots
of
of
them.
trauma.
Gundam?
Quite frankly, instead of like older Gundam series where it's usually like warring countries, it actually focuses more on like it uses the kids as a method of
proxy?
exploring a proxy, yes, of
Yeah.
exploring corporate warfare, if you will.
It does. There's definitely a lot of. I noted this as well, and I mentioned this as like a trigger thing. It has undertones of Kill la Kill to me because there's like this sort of. I have a feeling that there's like a rebel against the authority angle that they're gonna go with. Like it's gonna be kids versus adults essentially.
definitely
kids versus
do,
parents.
yes.
And like
For
I don't
sure.
mind that, but it's definitely something that is thematically consistent with that style of animation somehow, or that
There's-
studio.
Yeah.
But I
and
don't
there's-
think. But it's not Trigger who does this.
No, this is Sunrise.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Gundam is always Sunrise.
So there's another like theme there that really popped out at me. We decide outcomes of all disagreements and important matters with duels, and I was just like, oh, so it's just Shokugeki but with Eva.
Well, also, it's basically Utena. Because you are fighting over the right. You are literally dueling over the right to become the groom of the bride, if you will.
Yeah.
You are fighting over the right to be the person who marries the daughter
princess.
take
of
responsibility
the big
for
boss.
her, as they say.
They did call her a princess.
Yes, like she is.
I mean, she is in a sense. She's
She
the
really
heir,
is.
right? She's the great heiress of the overarching Jeff Bezosian
Corporate empire.
Exactly. So
It's just, kind of gross.
I'm looking forward to watching more of the Gundam show, even though I can't say I've really ever said that about a Gundam show. I like this new approach.
That's fair.
Yeah.
It's less stodgy.
And with respect to someone literally stealing your Gundam, I'm just like, no, you get the hell out of my driver's seat. That's my vehicle. Get out of there.
Exactly. It's like if someone stole your car to try to race it in a drag race that you agreed to. It's like, come on.
And this car
I
is
know.
Steal my
custom
car.
built to you, custom developed for your driving needs.
Especially when the other person
Exactly.
doesn't know how to drive manual.
It's
That is kind
it's
of
an
it, yeah.
affront. It is an affront that I will not put up with.
One thing I am not sure if I'm hoping for but just expecting, where is the masked anti-hero / antagonist?
So I've watched a few episodes. I think we're on like episode 8 or 9. I can't remember. I'm not sure who the Char is. The only character so far that fills out that archetype is actually the main character's mom. She's got the mask on, but she doesn't act like a Char yet.
Oh,
And so I don't know. Do we not have a Char?
is
Do
it
we not?
even real Gundam anime without a masked antagonist / anti-hero?
And that's the thing. It's like we're a good way into the season. I don't know who the big villain is, except for like the corporate villains, the big, ooh, I am the CEO of the company that doesn't like the Gundams. But that doesn't count. That's not a Char.
For those of us who may not know, can you define what a Char is?
So, in every Gundam series, starting with the first Gundam, there is this guy called Char Aznable, who is a masked...
Asian Abel. That's how I used to read his name.
Asian Abel. Wow.
the AZN.
As
Yeah.
in?
Char
Asian-
Aznable. He's got this wonderful mask that hides who he is, and there's a reason for it in the story. But ever since then, every single Gundam series has had a masked antagonist. Like in Gundam Wing, you had Zex Marquise. In
dude,
G
and he
Gundam,
had the tall geese.
you had I think his name was Schwartz Black.
Love it.
He was more in like an actual like mask
Yeah.
instead of the white mask. In Gundam Seed, you had, what was his name? Oh god, I can't remember who it was, but you had one in Gundam Seed. You had one, I'm pretty sure they had one in Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans. Like, every single Gundam has a Char. And in this one, the
Where
only
is the Char?
Char-looking character hasn't acted very Char-like yet. So that's...
It's a ruse.
either it is legitimately a ruse, or we don't know what's going on. Something's gonna happen.
Delicious sex with the delicious tall geese. One of my favorite.
Tall Geese was
Mech
such a
suits.
good mobile suit.
God.
Probably
Anyway,
my favorite visually.
Zex is my favorite Char. Like, Char is really good, but Zex is the best.
Zex is a really good character. But anyway.
Okay, so before we get too far
lots of
down
cool
the
stuff.
Gundam hole, do you guys want to move on to do it yourself?
Yes.
All right, so do it yourself. Do it yourself was the cute girls doing cute things pick. And I was very much for it. I was just like, yeah, a show that espouses fixing things and making things for yourself. You don't have to be this helpless maiden in distress. Just, I need to fix a thing. I can do it myself with power tools and everything. And I was all for it. The trailer looked really like cute, very dreamy. And the episode definitely has like the dreamy colors. You definitely get that like cotton candy vibe. There's like washed out colors everywhere. It's very almost like blown out. It's like everything is too bright, but in that kind of dreamy way.
Yes.
It
Other
was
anime
cute.
that it reminds me of would be like Sketchbook Full Colors or Hidamari Sketch in a way. It is
Yeah, a little bit.
It is so cute and so sweet that I'm pretty sure I got diabetes from it. I have to make a doctor's appointment after watching episode 1.
It's
No,
so cute
you
that
need
there's
to.
a pet pig named Meat.
Oh god,
Yeah.
I love Meat. Meat is actually the best character in the game, or in the
In
anime
the game.
so far. But I say that I'm not actually joking. All the characters so far feel really one-dimensional. Part of that's
Absolutely.
going to be because it's the first episode. We've gotten literally no character development. We've only gotten introductions. So
Yeah, we have a type A character, we have a type B character who happens to be the main character, who's very lackadaisical and like has no
Sentimental and cute.
Yeah, but
Having
but
that
is
said-
sentimental.
my god, the one visual that they gave us showing what this character is like. So we watched Chainsaw Man. We saw rivers of blood splashing across the screen. We saw bits of pieces and corpses and everything. And in Do It Yourself, we saw the character slice across her hand with an X-Acto knife, but it was like in a flashback sequence, and they put her hand like they showed it as like paper ripping apart. That
They showed
felt
the characters
more
like
visceral.
little paper puppets.
That felt more visceral and more real and more gory than everything in Chainsaw Man.
The setting just really set the context of what you're like it'd be like watching Elmo on Sesame Street suddenly gank Cookie Monster and cookies would just come out or something like that, but you'd still be like, oh my god.
They can't show
It
that
was-
as Sesame Street.
Yeah, whereas if you watch like Pulp Fiction and you watch like Samuel L. Jackson blow some guy's head off, you're like, all right, yeah.
There were
like,
two
that's
times in
standard.
this episode where I had loud, visceral reactions that Angelo and Jay can attest to. One was for that scene where they show her X-Acto knife across her hand. The other one was where she absolutely biffs it when her first time using a power drill.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It just does the whole, and she even, they get the little detail right of like if you sort of over torque your power drill while you're trying to get in a screw there, then it just kind of goes out of control and you'll probably get that like scritchy line down the wood because
Yeah.
it'll start. Yeah, like it was so like
It was so good.
It was
and
just
honestly, I love
so-
that they showed the finished product but she kept the one
crooked
screw.
in.
Yeah, I like that a lot, actually.
Yeah,
Like-
those were the 2 times I had like a loud visceral reaction, and both times were because I just had this like very strong relation to that main character, despite not being that character at all in real life.
The only thing that I really have to say about it is that it feels like it has an intended age range, and obviously all anime do. Like, you've got shonen that are made for like
Babies.
the 12 to 15-year-old boys. You've got the seinen for a little bit of an older crowd. This one really feels like it's made for 10 to 12-year-olds, and it really feels like it's driving that home.
But I think
biggest
that's
example
it's
of that.
Fine.
The biggest example of that being there is a pun. There's the pun for the main character's name, and they drove it home. It felt like the last 2 minutes of the episode
Yeah.
was 20 minutes of them
They
driving home this
slapped
one
you.
pun. They
Yeah,
slapped you with it
so
4 times in a row. Hey, viewer,
They were
are
like,
you as
"Get it?"
dumb as our main character? We're going to make sure that you get this pun.
It's the pain of being told and not shown, but like 40 times harder, and it kind of makes you walk away feeling like they slapped your brain a bit too hard.
Maybe it's
Yeah.
because it's an English pun in a Japanese language. Maybe that's why they did it like that. But as an English
really
speaker, it
hope
was
that
like,
is
aha! Oh, I get the pun the first time. And then you're like, but I got the pun the first, and then the third time, whole time, it's like, I got the pun.
They were like
the first time.
the character who was like making the explanation essentially of that pun name was like, did you understand the joke? Did you know that jokes are best understood when explained fully?
And I'm over here, I'm having my Joker moment where I'm like, if you have to explain the joke, there is no joke.
Yeah, but that's us, right? Like, we're adults.
Yeah.
I can totally see like someone who's 5 or 7 go, yeah, I got it. I get the joke now. It's so much funnier after they explained it, and now they're doing it again, and I get it.
Yep.
The one thing going back to the overall concept of the show, and I'm not really sure if I necessarily agree, but it feels like they were trying to pit like
High technology versus
high tech
manual
versus sort
labor.
of standard manual labor style creation. So like there's her
smart
former
girl
best friend kind of thing
who
who's
used
her
a 3D
neighbor.
printer
Yeah.
on her first day of school to make
Like,
a
ooh.
viable transplantable organ
Yeah. I was like, excuse me?
versus the girl who learned about history.
Yeah, or learned, how to use a power drill kind of thing. That's like the hands-on versus the, well, you can program something and then have something else do the work for you. And I'm like, I don't think that's really... I actually don't like that. Like, I get where the dichotomy is, the comparison, but I feel like you really should just be like, both things are good. They have their own application.
Did you also
Doing
notice
it
that
one way-
about their houses? The smart girl had an automatic face
Everything.
Oh.
face
Like,
recognition
the gate
unlocking.
opened-
Yeah.
Door
She
opens
was
the
on
like-
its
gate
own.
opened for her.
She has a
had
robot,
like a facial recognition
a robot
front door.
vacuum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where
She had
versus
a robot that would go fill her bath for her.
our
in a
DIY
creepy-esque
girl,
way.
she had to like manually open her door, greet her pets,
Yeah.
her dog, her cat, her pig. Her mom was like making food, everything out. Like it's a very manual.
It was that whole like, oh,
traditional
the warmth,
versus
yeah,
high tech.
exactly, warmth versus coldness kind of idea. I not really sure if it needed to go that way. I understand where they're going for, but I still
Pro
kind of
tip:
disagree.
if you want to learn how to use or make or maintain 3D printers and home electronics like IoT stuff, if you want to be the big brain version of that, the very least you need to know is how to solder and how to use like tools.
Yeah, I was thinking that
Realistically,
exactly. Like
if
they
you know
go hand in hand.
carpentry on top of that, you will be much more powerful. You
I
need
mean,
to know
I think
both.
what it's gonna I think, like, based on the trajectory of this type of show,
What if
that
the
I would
girls
expect that
become
eventually they
friends
would just sort
together
of
again?
combine powers.
They
You know what I
combine
mean?
powers and then the girls become friends again. That's
Yeah.
what I want it to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I want it to be.
Like, okay,
It's
one of the things
predictable,
that
but it'll be
Smart
fun.
Girl says, like, I think it was after like the first day of school. They live next to each other, so they see each other on their way in each day after school. And she's like, I learned how to use a 3D printer today. Or like, no, she doesn't say I learned. She said I mastered a
used it.
3D printer
Yeah.
today.
Oh yeah.
And I learned how to make arteries and veins for a medical research project. I was like, the hell?
Yeah. It goes a little bit too hard in the
Did you notice that all the cars were
like
self-driving?
comparisons.
I did notice they had like little
Yeah.
shuttle buses and stuff that took them to school.
Yeah, they had. So it's like a near future-ish setting, like next 20 years, give or take.
The upperclassman, she's the one who starts the DIY club,
Yeah.
right? But she has those sweet
Oh, she has
like
the sweet
Heelys.
electric Heelys.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So
I want
like
electric Heelys.
yeah, those were actually pretty cool.
They had
Anyways,
like drones everywhere too.
I'm going to make a prediction that none of us will continue watching this.
No.
Oh no.
I enjoyed
But
it, but
it's
I'm done.
not a bad show.
No, it's not. I just don't
Yeah.
think it's quite at the level it's not at the age I wish it was for.
That's what I felt
I
when I watched Avatar the
am
last
kind of
Airbender for
done.
the first time.
I am kind of done with cute girls doing cute things. I need
My God,
old men
this isn't an
doing
Angelo
old
I
man
know. What did you
things.
do with
No.
real Angelo?
No, if this was gonna be about old men doing old men things, let's talk about Eternal Boys, the Mature Idol project.
So I remember,
All
I
right.
intimately remember reading this and being so blasé about it, being like, oh my God, they're going to be like 25-year-old idols. They're going to be like barely not teenagers anymore and pretending they're washed up and everything. No, we got 40-year-old men.
We got 40-year-old men.
And I want to jump in quickly here. I think at least Nancy and I don't know if you did, Angelo, but we had this expectation that it was going to be former idols, like, when they were 18 to 24 or something like that. And then they were idols. Then they stopped being idols. Like they fell out of popularity, had to go get regular jobs. And then they wanted to do a comeback. That's not it. It is,
No.
they are 40 and it's time to become an idol.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought these were like idols who were gonna make like a middle-aged comeback, which I thought was
Yeah.
still gonna be like an interesting
Backstreet
story.
Boys.
But no, these are people who are gonna try to become idols in like their midlife. And it was surprisingly relatable. There was,
It was so
much about the
relatable.
show that was relatable.
And it's just like the theme of the anime in total is that you are never too old to try a new thing, which is absolutely something I can vibe with. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, me too.
Mm-hmm.
And so they've got a soccer player who's divorced and has to pay child support. They've got the best host club
From a
host
host
in
club.
Shibuya.
Yeah.
They've got a teacher who's just tired of kids or something. I can't remember what his story was. They've got a salaryman, a Japanese salaryman who got
Who's
fired
the main pro
because
tag boy?
his
Well, he
his
wasn't
company
fired.
went
His
bankrupt.
company went bankrupt. That's not quite the
Yeah,
same.
he
Well,
worked there for 17 years.
his words
and then one day
exactly.
he showed up and the company was bankrupt.
He got fired by a piece of paper taped to the door.
Yeah.
Those were his words.
Everyone at the company
And then you
found
ha-
out the same way.
Yeah, and then you have a child actor, like commercials actor. I shouldn't say like actual actor in a sense. And
Who is just-
he
he's
just
tried
like
everything.
he wants to be in showbiz all the time, and he's tried different avenues of showbiz throughout. And he's like, "This is my last chance. I feel like I'm gonna be an idol, or there's nothing else."
Yeah.
Do we
And,
miss anyone?
I think that's it.
Oh, so we watched 2 episodes because there was shorts. In the
Yeah.
first
Yeah, they're
episode,
about 11
after
minutes.
after ya boy after your boy went to a bar because he thought he bombed this interview, there was this big, tall, blonde dude who was built like a tank in the bar, and I was like, oh, that's going to be a main character. I said that. End of episode 2, he shows up at their door, looking like some scary-ass Yakuza. I called it. I knew it.
But like the way that they've written these episodes, the more you watch, the more you become hooked.
Yes.
I would I want to say I'm in a little bit of an opposite. Like I don't think I'm going to keep watching, but that's because while I don't mind the short episode format, I actually feel like they don't put a lot into the episodes. Like I don't feel like it moves along at a pace that I agree with. Usually when I have enjoyed like, you know, animes that are presented in the short format, shall we say, they tend to actually be more impactful with how much story they can cram. This moves at like regular episode pace. Like I expect this to be a 20-minute episode kind of show at that pace, except it just kind of cuts off in the middle of my expectations. Like I just don't know.
Like the 2 episodes that we watched felt like one proper episode.
Yeah, I don't know why it's short. That. And it's paced as a 20-minute episode as opposed to an 11-minute episode. I'm very
still kind of want to watch it though. Weird. I just want to know what happens to our sweet, desperate salaryman.
I have a very specific place to watch this, and I am going to watch it with Dio because I know that she'll appreciate it. She likes idols, whereas I just want to watch it because I want to see how it goes. I'm actually invested. This is the second time ever
I'm surprisingly invested.
An idol anime has got me. The first time was
What's
Zombieland
the other
Saga.
idol anime?
The first one was Zombieland Saga, and I was like, oh, zombies. And then it turned out to be an idol anime where the idols happen to be zombies.
I will join you for this watch.
Yeah.
You know what I won't join you for, though?
Nah, I'm joining you in not watching this.
Yeah, I'm not going to watch Sidanchi. This was our horror pick. It became very clear partway through the episode that this was going to be about like the Lovecraftian type world because Cthulhu was mentioned a couple of times.
It was shown. We saw many fishmen. We saw many fishmen in the Innsmouth sense.
Yep, there were a lot of old people and a couple of 10-year-old
very annoying
girls.
children. Oh, we should probably mention we had to watch this as a dub.
Yes, we had to watch this one as a dub for some reason.
It exists as a sub. I just could not find a source that would give it.
The voice acting for some of the characters was really off.
So some of the voice actors did a great job. I loved a lot of the old seniors who are kicking around this
adults,
this town. The children, I didn't love it. And I also noticed like inconsistencies with like how names were pronounced.
Yes, they were all Japanese names still. They didn't transliterate them in a sense or give like, you know,
give them an
become
English
John.
name.
Like there was someone they were talking about called Kojima. And they were saying like Kojima. Like they were all over the place with this name. So it was really clear, like there were really clear instances where no one was keeping the consistency of the name between the recordings, but also you could tell the voice actors weren't recording together. They had no one to play off of.
There was a lot of tonal whiplash. There were a lot of scenes where cute kids trying to be cute and innocent and stuff and wants shaved ice, and then the rest of it is really strange, like racist reactions of an old lady to having foreigners in town, and
then
it was
a
just,
little bit of
the
horror,
tone was all over
a
the
tiny
place.
sprinkle of horror in the middle.
Yeah.
Honestly, I feel like this is a very standard fare for horror anime. It's got the wonky pacing, it's got the very weird characterization, it's got characters that do not make sense from a character point of view. We were legitimately wondering we were legitimately wondering if this was a 40-minute first episode, and we were 15 minutes into the
you know it's a bad one when you look at it and you're like, is this over yet?
Yeah.
I actually
it's
had
a standard
to ask Jay, is this
23-minute.
over yet?
Yeah, 23 minutes.
Yeah, it's a standard episode length, and I was like, "Whoa, this feels really long."
I was with you. Like,
is this a double episode? Did they really put the
pacing
but
was the pacing was way worse than anything we've seen. Like the Eternal Boys thing I was saying, it's just because they made it. They basically felt like they split a 20-minute episode into two 10s for some reason and kept that pacing. That's neither here or there, because it's like at least it's consistent, and like it wasn't the absolute worst.
They could have done that for airing reasons.
Yeah,
like if that's the slot you're given, then you have to slice up your episodes.
Absolutely,
but I don't know. I don't know the decision behind that. But
C.
Danchi's first episode, wow.
Like, holy crap! It was slow, or rather, it felt slow. And then things would you'd get like tastes of what they're trying to expose in terms of the horror elements. But then they would just rip you back away from them and be like, haha, look, child cute. It was very strange. And then I gotta say that the audio direction, like the dubs, didn't help.
Yeah, the main girl was. If you were looking for someone to relate to in the story, it might be a little difficult.
Yeah. Not gonna lie, wish she died in the first episode.
I blame Khan for catching her and saving her life.
He was just trying to be a good person, yo. He didn't know.
It's not even that.
He couldn't know he was in an anime.
And then there was the whole like optical illusion thing, where like you want to talk about the whole like do it yourself. It was, hey,
A particular illusion.
child who hasn't heard of the term optical illusion. Would you like to learn about optical illusions? And then the kid sort of learns about what an optical illusion is, and then starts to use it poorly, and then does something really stupid, and says, she like paints some like rail, like guard line or guardrail looking
onto her dress,
stripes onto her clothing,
and then she steps outside of the guardrail,
and then people are like, "Oh, she's behind the guardrail, she's safe,"
and then they're like, "Oh no, the fuck they aren't."
Yeah, like it's. There's nothing worth redeeming about this show from the very first episode.
This is why I don't watch horror anime. They're never good.
The worst part is we didn't stop it early.
No, it was
like
better than
I've had
X-Arm.
with others.
Yeah,
It was at least 2 or 3 times better than X-Arm.
Yet, there were still times where I was like, is it over yet?
That doesn't say how much better Sidanshi is. That just says how much worse X-Arm was. I really recommend watching the first episode of X-Arm, if only for the experience of seeing the worst anime possible.
It helps you set a baseline for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what else needs baselines? We need baselines for amount of time given to read text when on screen.
Yes.
Which
you guys aren't speed
no
readers?
Karasu had lots of.
It was amazing. Every time let's say a setting title, so like maybe like a palace or maybe a name. So these names are like written in kanji, showing up, and you get the little subtitle over it that says like, oh, the name will be this, and this is a anime that's set in a like Chinese historical sort of palace setting.
So like all the name are like complex
you need a little
kanji.
bit of context. Yeah, they would pop up for half a second and you couldn't read it.
Yeah,
These
so
were like
bad.
complex place names or like people's titles and names, and you were just like, I couldn't read any of it. There was even like the very first thing you see in the opening in the opening sequence, there's a very long like legend that they write out for you. They don't read it out for you. They write it out for you, and like before you can read the end of the
first
second
line of like
it's
four
like
of them.
gone.
Yeah. I read about 1/3 of it, and there was probably 8 lines, something like that. And it wasn't
10.
even just the first, because there was one screen of text, then there was a second screen of text, and they both went away in about 2 or 3 seconds.
Yeah.
And I get that they may not want to do that as the whole thing for the opening, but like, please at least give me, you know, a reasonable amount, or shorten what you're writing, because it was just so unfulfilling. Because what if it's actually critical, you know, background knowledge? It could be for me, who has no good understanding of history.
Part of me feels like they were like, oh, people are going to be watching this on Netflix or Crunchyroll. It doesn't matter if it's that long. They can just pause it and read it and then get on with the thing. Nothing takes me out of the experience more than pausing to read on-screen text.
Yeah. Like, it's bad flow.
It's really bad flow, and that really set the tone for this episode. Just bad flow.
Bad flow sounds right. And honestly, who watches shows while holding a controller? You hit play and you put it down.
Yeah. So the big thing about this, it's a historical drama of, from what we gather so far...
It's not historical. It's set
historical fantasy.
in a fictional... Yeah.
Historical fantasy. It's not based on history as far as I can tell.
Some Chinese emperor trying to figure out how to prove that someone killed his mom so that he can properly execute her. And he's using this crow witch lady to do it. And she's supposed to be some stoic mystic person, except she's just a Genki teenage girl when nobody's looking.
True.
And apparently the best way ever to bribe the most powerful mystical person in the palace is to just give them treats?
Food.
Yeah, it's really strange because she holds high status within the palace. It's clear that she's probably the kind of person that's never had to want for anything, because basically she's been isolated from everybody else. She doesn't... Well, I should say, they say isolated, but it doesn't seem like they keep her isolated. They just want her to be isolated. There's no, like, she's not kept under lock and key, it seems like, because she can wander the palace grounds if she likes to.
Her
she
entire
clearly has
existence
powers
within the palace just seems wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but she clearly has powers. This is not a case of like her, like the mysticism is not fake in a sense. She
does have
has the ability.
magical powers.
Yes, but that being said, she has who's the witch lady in Triple X Holic?
Oh,
I can't remember her name.
I know who you're talking about, but I don't know what their name is.
But she had like she should be exuding that sort of wise woman, you know, witch kind of sensibility. But she's 16 years old, and she
has that
and she
aura.
lives a life where she can get anything she wants. But she is easily swayed by
She has that aura, and then
dim
you put
sum.
red bean buns in front of her.
Yeah.
And then she's like,
My
I'm a 16-year-old
God, I'll do
girl, and this is the
anything.
best day of my life. Okay, I'll hear you out. I'm like,
Oh
come
no,
Yeah,
not my
I'll-
weakness.
I'll summon the dead for you.
So, kind of like the last episode, or last anime Sidanshi, I have a thing against anime horror. I also have a thing against anime mystery genre. It's almost, again, never good, or it's usually got some kind of problems. Like Gothic from a few years ago. The detective is already dead from 1 or 2 seasons ago. There is another anime that I'm thinking of that I can't remember, because even though I watched the whole thing, it just left me completely
Underwhelmed.
underwhelmed
Whelmed.
even. Yes, underwhelmed.
Wow.
You know what bothered me about the visuals? The visuals were actually very nice for her. She's like
Yeah.
her head ornaments and like her dress and everything. Very
Yes.
beautiful and ornate. But why is she more ornate than the Emperor or any other noble lady?
Yeah, like she's the only character with any kind of character design.
True, that's
And
not
then
like basic AF for sure.
Everyone else was, like Jay said, a basic AF.
Yeah. I will also say that she has like this weird chicken companion,
Yeah.
which
That
is like the chicken part
destroys
is
the
fine.
tone.
Like I think in China people used to actually have chickens as pets. That's not the problem. The style that this chicken is drawn in is like a mascot.
Pokemon.
It's not it has no regal like it's not a proud rooster kind of thing. It is a squawky, fluttering, stupid chicken. It doesn't match her setting at all. When she's in her chamber and she's like
Everything's very
and she's-
elegant.
yeah, and then there are literally scenes of this chicken rolling around being dumb as hell, and it just does not make any visual like
It's bad.
buh.
To put it into perspective, to put it another way, in the Gundam series, as a whole, a very serious, usually very set in stone series, you've got Hado, which is the cute thing. It's just a little round robot ball. And Hado doesn't really break the tone because it's a little robot, basically a Roomba. It works.
Mm-hmm.
If you took out Hado and put in Pikachu, you'd be, that's dumb.
Or
That
Voltorb.
Pikachu doesn't, or
Because
Voltorb,
ball
honestly.
Pokemon, yeah, but that would even be
doesn't
dumber
work.
because it's like that's
that's what this is
that's
like.
a circle with a face.
It's very tonal whiplashy again. I feel like we're
Yes.
finding a lot of tonal whiplash problems everywhere.
And the worst part is, if I had the extra time, I might actually watch it because I think there's a nuance in the story. I like the story. I didn't know if I would like this going in. There's something that grabbed me a little bit. I like the reveal at the end about where this girl potentially comes from.
Yes.
I like the overarching
implications.
and I like the motivations for the emperor. Like there are some really good bits.
I agree. And I too didn't know if I would like this outside of the visual stylings that I saw from the teaser.
It's got good things going for it.
It's extra intriguing for me just because as a kid I used to really like the shows about the historical drama settings, and it's kind of nice to see that in an anime setting now. So it's just like it's grabbing at me. I don't know where to set my expectations, I think is it. And I think once the show like actually gets into the meat of what it's the story actually is, it'll start being less tonally weird.
I would hope so. I think it's probably worth a second episode to see how well it develops.
Yeah.
I would also say that it's not a fault of the storytelling in this show. It's the fault of
I would say it's a fault of the direction.
yeah, that's basically it. Like they don't the elements that exist are technically fine. It's okay for her to be 16. It's okay for her to maybe want to start like she has the character design like personality of a 16-year-old in a sense, okay? But don't put it all together at once.
Yeah.
You know, like space it out a little bit. Make it that she maybe at the very beginning for this first episode, she doesn't show that she's too 16-year-old-y, you know, but like give it like let her work it in and have her character develop slower as opposed to being like, yeah, I'll do mystic stuff for food, but before like the line the 2 minutes before that, she's like seemingly trying to be very wise about like what she does and doesn't do, and the reasoning behind it, and it all
And
makes
how
sense.
she gets paid and everything
Exactly,
like
like
that.
that. But that part was fine. That was
But
actually
we're
pretty
here
cool.
to bribe you with Bao.
Yeah, very strange.
Yeah. So, bit of a mixed bag this season.
As it is every season.
There's a lot for everybody to enjoy, and there's a lot for everybody to ignore.
It's
Yep.
true.
You get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, and the only way you're going to find out about what you like is to go watch it yourself.
What?
No, you
Your
didn't.
Serufu?
Oh, you
your-
didn't.
Yourself.
Watch it
Watch it
yourself.
I know you guys can't see me, but I'm cringing really hard.
How long have you been holding that in?
Honestly, I just came up with it in the last
Good
30
night.
seconds.
Good night. I'm out.
Bye.
Thanks for listening.